Several delinquents are doing community service when they suddenly get struck by lightning. They feel lucky to be alive after that, but they have no idea that their lives are about to change. 6 delinquents are summoned by probation worker Tony for the orientation of their community service. But as Tony runs them through the process, they only remain inattentive and disrespectful until a fight breaks out, with Nathan and Gary pissing each other off. Moments later, they start repainting the benches, but Gary, the one with anger issues, walks out upon noticing that paint has gotten into his cap, causing Alicia, a provocative lady, to laugh at his misfortune. Then, Alicia tries to converse with Curtis, recognizing him as an athlete. Meanwhile, Nathan, a boy with a flippant attitude, talks to Kelly, the one with a weird accent, and the quiet guy, Simon, about the offenses they committed. But he suddenly notices the abrupt change of weather, with dark clouds looming in the sky. Then, Tony arrives to check their progress, but he only gets disappointed with how slow they are in accomplishing the task. However, his lecturing gets interrupted when a large hail falls on his car, causing the alarm to go off. While everyone starts to panic, Simon gets his phone to take a video of what's happening. When another hail drops into the lake, Alicia notices the black smoke coming from the clouds, which Simon also captures. As it hails, Tony orders the group to run while Gary remains unbothered inside the restroom, trying to clean his cap. Amidst the disaster, the group runs back to the Wortham Community Center, but they are unable to immediately enter as the door is locked. While the others continue to dodge the hail, Tony tries to open the door, but with very shaky hands, he struggles to find the door's key until the 5 delinquents get struck by lightning, sending them flying through the air. As they all land on the ground, the delinquents feel weird, but luckily they are all alive. After they check on each other, Tony lets the 5 go home. In the locker room, Kelly oddly hears Alicia's voice while she brushes her hair. She asks Alicia about it, but the girl only denies it, so Kelly shrugs it off. But Kelly still hears Alicia's inappropriate comments and confronts the girl, causing her to walk away. Meanwhile, Simon tells the other boys that it's like Tony was having a spasm, but the conversation gets interrupted when Alicia arrives. They soon decide to head home, but as Tony watches the delinquents go, he starts to act strange. Inside a cubicle, Gary hides the smoke but quickly stops when he hears someone enter the restroom. As he gets down to peek under the door, Gary sees someone walking and accidentally drops his phone. When the person stomps on Gary's phone, he starts yelling only to get silenced and surprised by an axe suddenly breaking the door. Later that day, while Kelly hangs out with her dog, she suddenly hears its thoughts. Then her fiancé, Lee, arrives, and as they make out, she starts hearing what he's thinking. Pissed, Kelly punches Lee, causing the guy to walk out and regret giving her a ring. At the same time, Nathan's mother kicks him out of the house so she can spend more time with her boyfriend, knowing that Nathan doesn't like him. Nathan then stays in the community center, waking up the next day a bit tired. As Nathan goes to the restroom to relieve himself, he notices the blood and how messy the place is, but he doesn't seem to care or wonder what happened there. Afterward, Nathan calls his mother, asking her to take him back. After storing his belongings in a locker, Nathan exits the building and sees the 4 juveniles accusing each other of writing a threatening message on the walls. He joins in, suspecting that their probation worker is behind it, and while they debate whether Tony intends to kill them, the man arrives. But as they start displaying their unruly behavior, Tony confiscates their phones. While changing in the locker room, Simon tries telling the others that he found Gary's bloodied cap, then asks them what happened after his head shakes uncontrollably. However, no one seems to notice him, no matter how loud he shouts, even though he's standing in front of his fellow probationers. After that, Simon sees that he doesn't have a reflection in the mirror, and the other delinquents simply walk away, not realizing he's gone. As the juveniles go out, Tony appears in the hallway, angrily stomping on a cigarette butt. In the locker room, Simon's head shakes uncontrollably again. Tony starts throwing a fit in the hallway while Simon becomes visible again and goes out to help the others. Curtis, Kelly, and Nathan scrub the message on the wall outside the center while Alicia lazily sits on the bench, and Simon arrives moments later. Then, Kelly becomes bothered by constantly hearing other people's thoughts, and asks if they ever noticed anything strange happening to them after the storm. After Nathan's sarcastic and annoying response, Kelly hears Simon's interesting thoughts and asks him if he felt weird. But Simon hesitates to tell them the truth and eventually says it's nothing. Frustrated, Kelly walks out, but she gets stopped by Tony, who soon grows a temper with the girl's disobedience. Kelly then headbutts him and quickly leaves, causing Tony to be suddenly wild. Later, Kelly is sitting alone outside when a bloodied and enraged Tony arrives with a weapon. To save her life, Kelly runs immediately while the others are inside the center, oblivious that their probation worker has become murderous. Alicia and the guy's storytelling is cut short when a terrified Kelly enters the center, saying that Tony has attacked her and is planning to kill them. Then Kelly reveals that she began hearing people's thoughts after the storm, which also prompts Simon to disclose that he became invisible while they were in the locker room. But the three who haven't experienced anything unusual refuse to believe their claims, so Simon tries and fails to become invisible, and Nathan only throws a can at him. As Nathan insists on going out, Kelly attempts to stop him and says he will be killed. Despite that, Curtis stubbornly opens the door, causing Kelly to run toward it. Unfortunately, she gets killed by Tony, who is determined to kill the other probationers too. Curtis exclaims in surprise, and things begin to slow down as he watches the events unfold. Then, strangely, he sees time turn back, returning to when Nathan throws a can at Simon's face. Knowing what will happen next, Curtis joins Kelly in her attempt to prevent Nathan from opening the door. While Nathan mocks Curtis, the latter informs everyone that Nathan and Kelly's argument has already occurred, and his stubbornness has led to Kelly's death. He also explains how time went backward while they were just standing there. Finding Curtis's words ridiculous, Nathan opens the door only to see a murderous Tony. Frightened, Nathan quickly locks the door, and as Tony starts banging on it, everyone inside tries to understand what's happening to the probation worker. They think about reporting to the police, but Tony has their phones. Eventually, the banging stops and they start to argue and blame each other. Afterward, Alicia heads to the back entrance, and as the others follow, Nathan slips on a pool of blood. Curtis opens the locker where the blood comes from, and there, they find Gary's lifeless body. Finally, Alicia realizes they will end up just like Gary because of Tony. To escape their misfortunes, Nathan urges Curtis to turn back time, but the latter doesn't know how it works. Determined to leave, Curtis touches Alicia to bring her with him, but he weirdly starts saying inappropriate things to her as if having an instant uncontrollable desire. But as soon as he lets go of Alicia, he returns to normal, forgetting what happened. As the group tries to make sense of what just happened, Alicia touches Simon until he begins acting erratically and saying disgusting remarks. Suddenly, Tony breaks into the center, so Kelly immediately grabs a paint can and hits Tony in the head, rendering him unconscious. While Tony remains still, the delinquents check on the man to see if he's dead. But Tony moves to grab Kelly's foot, and the others watch in great shock as Kelly stomps on Tony's head, finally killing him. Everyone is terrified, and Alicia can't believe that Kelly killed their probation worker. Curtis suggests calling the cops and telling them it was self-defense, but Kelly argues that no one will believe them and that the police will only think they killed Tony and Gary. After careful deliberation, the group decides to bury Tony and Gary's bodies under the flyover. They also agree to keep everything a secret to protect their identities and ensure that no one will know they have breached the terms of their Antisocial Behavior Order, or ASBO. Everyone is busy burying the bodies when Nathan suddenly announces that he is the only one who lacks a special ability. Simon says maybe he just hasn't found it yet, and they proceed to bury the bodies. Then, the five of them return home and try to move on with their lives. The following day, the five of them are summoned by Sally, Tony's colleague, to inquire about the whereabouts of the two missing people. Nathan then speaks up, fabricating a story about Gary and Tony having an illicit affair, prompting the woman to walk out frustrated. Still bugged by Tony's sudden disappearance, Sally tries to dial Tony's number later, but it goes straight to voicemail. While the five delinquents are on the rooftop, they try to discuss their plans for the coming days. With special abilities, Simon wonders if they're meant to become superheroes, but Nathan disagrees. He also adds that everything will return to normal in a week. One day, the five of them are picking up trash around the community when they spot an unclothed man lying on the ground. As the man turns around, Nathan immediately recognizes him as Jeremy, his mother's boyfriend who flees upon seeing them. After the embarrassing incident, Sally assigns the group to accompany some elderly people at a small party. The five of them part ways to attend to different people, but when Alicia gets assigned to an old man named Harry, the man immediately blurts out inappropriate words upon touching her. Fortunately, Sally is quick to intervene to separate the two. Meanwhile, Nathan is pushing a grandmother in a wheelchair when a beautiful woman named Ruth passes by. He becomes distracted and abandons the grandmother to hit on the lady. Nathan talks to Ruth and learns she's a volunteer, but despite wanting to talk to her more, another elderly woman interrupts, requesting to dance with Nathan. Later, the five of them are changing in the locker room when Curtis finds a note inside his locker, prompting him to alert the others that someone knows what they did. Kelly asks Nathan if he's pulling a prank on them, but the latter denies it. He also emphasizes that if someone really knew what happened, they would have gone to the police. Before Nathan leaves, he tells Curtis that the note must pertain to something he's done, not their secret. Curtis then asks the others if they believe Nathan, but with the unsolvable puzzle, Kelly responds that they just have to act normally. Frustrated, Curtis returns the crumpled note to his locker. Later that day, Nathan heads back to their house, and his mother, Louise, arrives while he is trying to climb inside. He immediately tells her about Jeremy lying in the car park with no clothes on, but Louise refuses to believe Nathan, knowing that her son is fond of fabricating stories. On the other hand, Simon is on his computer when a particular Shy Girl 18 virtually adds him as a friend. Seconds later, he receives a message from Shy Girl 18 and Simon instantly replies. Concurrently, Nathan returns to the community center to spend the night. When he goes out to investigate why the lights suddenly turn on, he runs into Ruth, who claims she left her bag. After making small talk, the two find themselves drinking and doing anything to their heart's content. As Nathan and Ruth hang out outside, the lady spots Jeremy running unclothed again. Focused on getting proof, Nathan asks for Ruth's phone before he follows Jeremy. But when Nathan finds Jeremy, the man jumps on him and starts acting like a dog. As soon as Jeremy leaves, Nathan tries to take a picture of him, but it's blurred. The next day, Nathan shows Kelly his photo of Jeremy, but she doesn't recognize the guy, and she learns from Nathan's thoughts that he is homeless. Nathan proceeds to discuss a plan to deal with Jeremy, but when he attempts to ask for help from the other delinquents, no one responds or volunteers to accompany him. Frustrated by their unwillingness to cooperate, Nathan tries to blackmail them by mentioning Tony's death, prompting everyone to silence him. But when Simon offers to assist him, Nathan declines, believing they won't make a good team. Simon walks out and sits alone in the locker room, hurt by Nathan's words. Seconds later, his head shakes uncontrollably, leading to his invisibility. Then, Alicia and Kelly walk in to change clothes, but as he remains unseen, Simon approaches the ladies and watches them change. Later that day, Nathan breaks into their home and he finally confronts Jeremy about his strange behavior. It isn't long before they start arguing, leading Nathan to punch Jeremy. Unfortunately, Louise walks in on them and she immediately scolds Nathan. While the boy tries to convince his mother that Jeremy is hiding something, Louise discloses that she already knows Jeremy's secret. Jeremy explains that he started acting like a dog after the storm, which is why he would sometimes wake up with no clothes on. Despite knowing Jeremy's peculiar condition, Louise sticks with him because she loves the guy, and she even slaps Nathan when he says something offensive to Jeremy. That night, Nathan goes to Ruth's house with the excuse of returning her phone. Sensing that Nathan's upset, Ruth lets him inside, where they talk and drink a little until they get intimate. While Nathan and Ruth are doing the deed, Nathan is taken aback when the young and beautiful Ruth suddenly transforms into an old woman. He then pushes Ruth aside and runs to the bathroom, but the woman follows him and stands by the door to check if he's okay. She also says the storm made her young again. Nathan opens the door eventually, and he learns that Ruth is actually 82 years old. Somehow repulsed by what happened, Nathan prepares to leave, and Ruth fails to stop him even when she says she thinks she's growing old again. The next day, a police officer attempts to arrest Alicia for breaching the terms of her ASBO due to a curfew violation. When the officer grabs Alicia, he instantly turns wild while trying to ravish her. Fortunately, Sally enters the room, allowing Alicia to push the man away and leave. After letting go of Alicia, the officer comes to his senses, wondering what happened. Alicia heads to the restroom and Sally follows to check on her. The lady officer starts to notice that Alicia attracts men. Then she offers help and her number to Alicia in case a similar problem arises. But the girl only refuses and leaves Sally behind. Later, the 5 delinquents get sent again to party with the elderly. Curtis, Kelly, Simon, and Alicia have fun while dancing with them. But as Nathan glumly sits in a chair, an old Ruth slowly walks toward him. Seconds later, Nathan runs outside, trying to avoid the old woman. While Nathan smokes under the flyover, the other probationers arrive and ask what happened to him. After Kelly tells Nathan that Ruth was looking for him, she hears the guy think about what happened between him and Ruth, disgusting her. When Kelly confronts Nathan about his thoughts, the others learn that Nathan slept with Ruth. As they tease him, Nathan explains that he only did that because Ruth wasn't old when they started, and she became young again after the storm. Feeling bad that the others are making fun of Nathan, Kelly apologizes for letting them know, but Nathan just angrily leaves them. Later that day, Simon becomes busy chatting with his new internet friend who remains to be mysterious and refuses to send him photos. Meanwhile, Nathan goes to Ruth's house and rings the doorbell. When no one answers and he notices that the door is open, he walks inside and sees a lifeless Ruth sitting in the living room. As he goes near the woman, he finds a photo album containing pictures of the young Ruth. Nathan then apologizes before putting the album on Ruth's lap. He slightly messes up her white hair before he leaves the house. Afterward, Nathan visits his mother and the two make up after apologizing to each other. Nathan also lies about getting his own place, and Louise believes her son and feels happy for him. However, before leaving, Nathan warns Jeremy not to hurt his mother. Then, the 5 delinquents once again gather in the locker room. As they talk about the other people who also gained special abilities after the storm, Simon tells them they need to prepare for when they come after them. Curtis asks why that would happen, so Simon replies it's what people do. Unfortunately, when Nathan opens his locker, he finds a threatening poster similar to what they found in Curtis's locker. The rest check the poster, thinking about who might know what they did, unaware that Sally is watching them by the door.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.